Hi everyone, it's Tips, Tricks, and How-To by GoneResearching. This video is Steps to Start Your Family Tree, Part 2, Seek Out Records and Answers, where we continue to cover essential basics and highlight some resources to make use of for your research. Let's start with a quick recap of Part 1 of this two-part video series. In Steps to Start Your Family Tree, Part 1, we covered what genealogy is. Step 1, gather, record, plan, and Step 2, interview. The main takeaway is start with what you and your family knows and the documents information in your home, be it your home or your parents' home, etc. And that way, your family tree has a strong footing or base, and you do not end up researching the wrong tree. Many people tend to start with a combination of census, vital records, newspapers, and cemetery information, expanding out to other record types later. The reason is that most people can find an ancestor in these particular records. Step 3 is use census records. Census records capture a household, usually a family, at a particular point in time. They provide a variety of information and clues. Census enumerations asked a little bit different questions each enumeration year. They can be found on free and pay websites. I suggest starting with the latest available census enumeration and working back in time. Various countries took census about every 10 years. For the United States, they did theirs on the aught, so years ending with a 0, 1790, 1800. Canada and the United Kingdom took their census in years ending with a 1, so 1851, 1861. Another difference between countries is often the time period between when a census was taken and its release to the public. The United States has a little bit shorter embargo period, and so we have a few more census years available compared to other countries. So let's look at the countries that I've got listed here. For the United States, census started in 1790 and continues to be taken every 10 years. The latest available is 1940. There's a little record loss in most of the census enumeration years. The exception is the 1890 census was almost completely destroyed by fire and water damage. So there are very few fragments left, so that means very few people can find their ancestors on the 1890 census. United States Census is available on both free and pay websites. The 1940 is free most everywhere. It was actually crowdsourced indexed, which is available on a couple different sites, and it was indexed in the quickest amount of time. For Canada, their census from 1851 to the most currently available census enumeration year, 1921. Their census is actually free at the Library Archives of Canada website. It's also on pay sites. The United Kingdom has census from about 1841 to the most currently available 1921, and it may be on free or pay websites. The difference between an enumeration year at one site to another website is that the index is often different, done by different people. So if you can't find your person in an enumeration year on one website, if you can, try looking at that same enumeration year on another website, because a different indexer may have read a census entry a little bit differently. So where can you find census? You can try the website of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the Mormons. Their website is familysearch.org, and it's free. There are the big three genealogy subscription sites, and all have most of the major census enumerations. These are Ancestry, MyHeritage, and Find My Past. Don't forget to check your state, province, or local library. They may have the library edition a subscription available for either in-library use or possibly with remote access so you can use it outside of the library. The fourth step is find vital records. Vital records document major life events, births, marriages, and deaths. They almost always link one generation to another generation unless you find the answer unknown or not known. Vital records can be found at free and pay websites such as FamilySearch.org, the Big Three subscription websites, but they can also be found at state library and archive websites. Each state or country varies in when recording of vital records began and their accessibility rules. Older records are often more accessible, while newer records are more restricted due to privacy concerns. These records often contain both primary first-hand and secondary second-hand information. So with a death certificate, the information on the decedent's death is more likely primary first-hand, while the information on the decedent's birth is likely secondary or second-hand information. Now, you may find some vital records at home, but they're generally found at county, town, township clerks' offices or at the state level, depending on the location. Some vital records may have been transferred to state archives or libraries, and some may be online or microfilm. Now, the thing to note is a record may not exist for everyone due to the lack of availability or that the record simply wasn't recorded. The fifth step is search newspapers. There's lots to find and locate in newspapers: obituaries, wedding announcements, anniversaries, and lots of news of the day. Not all are digitized or microfilm. Available locations vary as well as time frames vary. They can be found at free and pay websites, and there's a great list of links for the United States and Canada at theancestorhunt.com. It's a blog website whose author has dedicated time to recording what newspapers are available for what locations on what websites. It's a fantastic resource. The sixth step is seek out cemeteries. The dead may not speak, but their tombstones may say more than you think. More than just their name, birth date, and death date. Occasionally, you'll find a tombstone that has the location of that person's birth. If you're local, visit and photograph, but do no harm to the tombstones in cemetery. And if you're in an older section of a cemetery, look at those buried nearby because they may be related to the ancestor you're taking a tombstone photo of. So, if you're not local, or even if you are local, try online with findagrave.org or billiongraves.com. These are user-submitted tombstone memorials. It doesn't mean that they have a tombstone memorial for every tombstone of every cemetery. They're user-submitted, so you may be able to find some information. It's worth trying. Having used the 4 basic record types we've talked about, you should now have, let's call it an outline of your ancestors, enough to identify your ancestor from someone else in other record types. So there's much more to seek beyond the sources at home and these 4 basics. The possibilities are quite large. They could be church records, probate records, land records, emigration and immigration records, which are um, departing and entering a locality, naturalization and citizenship records, court and legal records, military records, and more. Along the way, remember to cite your sources as you enter your information. Record how you learned a fact so that you or someone else can find it back later. I strongly suggest using original records or images of, not just derivative documents like index. And no matter what, have fun. In doing genealogy, you're going to explore the web and more. Online, judge the usefulness of a website based on what it has to offer your specific research needs. Genealogy websites may be free or pay sites. You're going to search at local libraries, at state libraries and archives, at historical or genealogical societies, and at government offices. And I'm going to remind you once more, digitized actual records are better than just indexes. They have more information. After the document's in the home, I suggest starting with free websites and services. Of the free websites out there, I'm going to cover the following. Family Search is a free site. It's familysearch.org. There are a variety of records from all around the world. Some records can be viewed from home, while some can be viewed at a Family Search affiliate library. And then there are others that you can only view from either a Family History Center or the Family History Library in Salt Lake City. Find a local genealogy group or society for local meetings and their website resources, or a group or society where your ancestor lived. Check your state library and archive, or the state where your ancestor lived. Look at your local library and archive, or the locality where your ancestor lived. And don't forget any free access to pay services like library editions provided by either your local or state libraries or archives. Additional free websites that I've mentioned in either part 1 or part 2 of this two-part video series are theancestorhunt.com. It has links to digitized newspapers on both free and pay websites for various localities in the United States and Canada. The Library and Archives of Canada website. The first URL is to the homepage, and the second URL is to the Ancestors search page, where you will find a variety of record collections to search, such as census, land records, military records, to name just a few. There's cindyslist.com. Think of it as an index or card catalog to genealogy and history related websites. Look up a subject, click, and you will find a variety of websites with information for that subject. There's findagrave.org and buildinggraves.com. These are user-submitted online recordings of cemetery tombstones. Doesn't necessarily mean that they have every tombstone in a cemetery or every cemetery yet. There's also google.com. Free, of course. Use it to find things. In addition to free websites, you may find that you need to use pay or subscription websites or services. Let's look at subscription databases by first focusing on the big three genealogy pay sites. Ancestry.com has a variety of records from around the world. It has a strong records collection for the United States as well as several other countries. It has member trees. It has DNA autosomal testing. And local libraries often have library edition for use in library, or a state might have access for its residents. MyHeritage.com has a variety of records from around the world. It has a strong collection from various Nordic countries, as well as a few other countries around the world. It has member trees, and it has autosomal DNA testing. Local libraries often have the library edition for use in library, or a state might have access for its residents. FindMyPast.com, or its various other country endings for the URL, has a variety of records from around the world, but a very strong emphasis on the United Kingdom records, because it's a UK company. It has member trees, and it's teaming up with living DNA to do autosomal DNA testing. There are also other pay sites of interest. Full3.com has some databases that are free, in addition to its pay ones. It's mostly a military focus, but does have some non-military collections. There's AmericanAncestors.com. It's the website of the New England Historic Genealogical Society. So if you become a member, you have access to all of its databases. But it does have some databases that are free. But remember, not everything is on the internet. Check your local library and the libraries of the locations where your ancestors lived. Many have unique databases and digital archives that you can access. Visits to local government and other record-keeping locations may also be necessary. The 10th step I have is educate yourself. Read genealogy how-to books. Start with how to begin. Then add specific subjects when needed. Italian research, German research, United Kingdom research. There are physical books or ebooks available from libraries, bookstores, and shopping websites. Read credible how-to sites. Family Search Research Wiki has tons of information on tons of topics. The American Ancestors website, though it's a pay site, there is a free page with getting started information. Watch how-to videos such as those on YouTube and the help and learning section of the genealogy websites you are using. Learn how to use the sites that you are using. Attend or join a local genealogy society meeting. Check out its website. It may have resources that you can utilize. Visit your local library. Find out which library in your location has the best genealogy collection. Often, even if you don't have ancestors in the location where you live, the library with the best genealogy collection in the area usually has resources for genealogy no matter where your ancestors are from. And check its website out. That brings us to what is with DNA. And DNA may actually have brought you here to figure out how to do family history. This is where science meets genealogical research. It is a tool to help. You can do genealogy without DNA, but you can't do DNA without genealogy if you want to understand how you're related to your DNA matches. I suggest sticking to the main known genealogy DNA testing companies. They are testing your autosomal DNA, which is the DNA inherited about 50-50 from your mom and your father. The companies I have listed here are listed in order of size, meaning the number of customers who have tested their DNA pool. So there's Ancestor DNA, 23andMe, MyHeritage DNA, Family Tree DNA. A smaller company is Living DNA, and if you have UK Ancestry, it's a UK company, so it has a lot of people tested. So Ancestry DNA has the largest number of people who have tested, and this is a great site for anyone, but particularly for people who are adopted or who have unknown parentage. There's just so many people who tested that you may get some clues from doing a test here. 23andMe also has a large number of customers who have tested their DNA. They're more health oriented, but they are expanding on their genealogy side. MyHeritage DNA is a company from Israel, and it has more international customers, and so it's good for anyone really, but especially if you have a lot of European heritage. Family Tree DNA is the original DNA genealogy consumer testing company. They not only test autosomal DNA, but they test Y-DNA and mitochondrial DNA. They're the only ones who have an actual test for those two types of DNA. Y-DNA is your patrilineal DNA. It's your father's father's father's. You get, with your test results, DNA matches and an indication of what your patrilineal haplogroup is. With mitochondrial DNA, this is your matrilineal lineage, your mother's 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 mother. So you get an idea of what your matrilineal haplogroup is, as well as DNA matches. Now, this is all I'm going to say about DNA because it is a topic of its own and there's so many aspects of it, you could fill hours learning about it. So, let's go on. But don't worry, we're at the end now. After you've gathered your information from home and family members, what records you seek depends on what you need to know and what resources are available to you. So step 12 is there is no set order. The order in which you approach things depends on what you need to know and what resources are available to you. Remember to have fun as you are doing your genealogy. If searching records does not sound like fun, or you have multiple family members doing the records-based genealogy research, try putting together family stories, memories, letters, even recipes, and approaching your genealogy or family history from that aspect. It will truly add to your overall family history. This is the end of Steps to Start Your Family Tree, Part 2, Seek Out Records and Answers. I hope you were able to find some information to help you in doing your family history. Don't forget to watch Steps to Start Your Family Tree, Part 1, Gather, Record, Plan, and Interview. This has been Tips and Tricks and How To by Gone Researching. Goodbye.